folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. Today's video is going to be my 2018 Stephen King wrap-up. Very exciting. I want to talk to you about all the books that I read Stephen King-wise in the year of 2018. It's funny because I went and I looked back at my 2017 goals for my 2018 goals, and I said that I wanted to read 2 Stephen Kings a month. That just straight up did not happen. I ended up reading a total of 12 books, so half of what I wanted to read. You know what, I'm proud of myself because when I actually put all these books together and I actually did this, like the math of some stuff, it ended up being really successful, and I'm proud of myself for reading as much as I did. As I mentioned, I read 12 books, actually more like 11, but one of them I counted as like a full book because it's a chunk of different seasons, which is right back here. You guys can't really see it. That's okay. I ended up counting that, so really it's more like 11, but whatever. So I ended up reading in total 6,058 words of Stephen King in 2018. Now here's the part that made me feel good about it, because I went, oh, only 12 books, well, you know. Well, the average page number for those books were 504. So listen, to me that makes it feel like I read 12 tomes, which, you know, when you actually break down the page number like that, is basically true. And so I don't feel too bad because that's a lot of pages read, and maybe as I go on to Stephen King, some of his books are a little smaller, I can read them a little more quickly, you know, try to read more, but I read some big books. I read the biggest book that I own this year, which is The Stand. I'll show you guys in a second. And that is a 1,300 page book, so I don't really feel too bad reading 12 Stephen Kings in a year when one of them is basically the size of 3 whole books, right? My average rating was a 4, although out of those 11 books that I read, 12 books, I only rated 2 5 stars, so I'm going to talk about those. First things first, I'm going to show you guys the stack. This is so satisfying. Oh man, oh, it makes me feel good in my heart, okay? I didn't realize that until I stacked all of the rainbow books together that this is what my year looks like in my Stephen King rainbows. I hope I don't drop these. I will probably drop these. I'm hoping to get them up for like a thumbnail quickly. That right there. Oh, I did it! That is the rainbow of Stephen King books that I read in 2018. Minus, I think, 1 or 2 of them because they just don't come in this format, but, oh no, I just want to hold them up a little bit longer. Oh, okay. Yeah, so obviously these are in publication order, starting with Kari, working it down to The Running Man, which is the one that I ended with. My favorites from this stack were actually these 2 right back to back, which is really weird, but I love Salem's Lot and The Stand the most, so I'm gonna put these down. So yeah, out of those ones were my favorite, and it's so, like, I don't know, it just brings me so much joy to look at that rainbow. I don't know, I just love it, okay? I just love it. This video is not gonna be super, like, informative maybe, but I don't know, maybe I'll just talk about them, which ones I recommend. So starting with Kari, I think I gave this a 4. This is more of a paranormal book than it is really a horror book, even though it is, I guess, classified as horror, very like, just very typical horror. This is always a book that I feel like if you have not read Stephen King, you should read. It is short, it gives you sort of like an idea of his writing style. This is his first like official published book, even though he had a lot of short stories and stuff before that. Kari is just sort of a classic, and I think that everyone should read Kari. Next we have The Shining, which I always say if you have watched the movie and have never read the book, do read the book. If you like the movie, read the book. The endings are very, very different. Stephen King actually hates the movie The Shining, so read this if you're curious. It's a lot of fun, and I would classify this sort of as a true horror book, so there's that. Next we have my first 5-star Stephen King, that is Salem's Lot. I loved this. I really, really love this. This is probably, along with The Stand, well, they're my favorite Stephen Kings to date. It's the small town world building and just like the imagery and kind of the slow burn, but then there's like fast, exciting spots. This is through and through a vampire book. This is you know, Dracula set in small town America, very like atmospheric and spooky and a lot of fun. If you're somebody who's only read fast-moving, sparkly vampires, but you liked more of like slow, not necessarily sexy, but like just imposing, dreadful vampires, like full like Nosferatu vibes, read this. This is absolutely fantastic. I want to reread this. This is long too, to be honest. This is like 800 pages, but so page turning, and I loved Salem's Lot. Loved it. Then we have the longest book that I read this year. This is The Stand. Like this is an 800 page book and you put it next to that and it looks like, you know, anyway. This one is a chunky monkey. This is the unabridged version as well. This is the full book as Stephen King, I guess, wanted it to be. And I always go with read the unabridged. I recently did a review of this and talked like a lot more in detail about it, but this is a dystopian book. This is not really a horror book. This is a post-apocalyptic flu that wipes out the world and a battle between good and evil, and it is so great. You get to just like, I mean, this many pages, you get to like love and feel for the characters, and absolutely fantastic. If you are wanting to read a long book and you want to be just so immersed into a world, The Stand, do recommend to everybody. Honestly, that one's not really that scary, so I suggest that one. So there is The Night Shift. This is a collection of short stories. This I really recommend as well. To be honest, there's some horror stories, there's some that are really just not horror, more like, I don't know, contemporary. There's some that are just super bizarre, super surrealist and weird. This just gives you like a big salad bowl of Stephen King. You never know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get a mushroom, you're gonna get a grape tomato, you're gonna get some lettuce, like different things in every bite. All of which are fun. There's some classics in there, like the introduction to Jerusalem's Lot, which is, you know, helps build up your knowledge about Salem's Lot. There's Children of the Corn, there's The Lawnmower Man, there's The Last Rung on the Ladder, there's just so many, The Boogeyman, The Mangler, so many great short stories in this that you really realize that this is how Stephen King has so many ideas, because he writes these just like incredible little snippet short stories. So I suggest that to everybody as well. Next, I believe I went to a couple of other different things. I did read Rage, so I count that as well. Then I read The Long Walk and a couple other, and Roadwork. So this is all from the Bachman books. I didn't read this actual copy. I read my shorter versions of those and my actual Stephen King Bachman book. Yeah, so those ones. The Long Walk, oh my god, yes, actually I'm not sure where it is in my collection. The Long Walk is not a horror. I suggest that one to everyone too. If you like the idea of like the Hunger Games, but you like sort of a more twisted version of that, I do suggest The Long Walk. Basic premise of it is 100 kids are picked, and the last one who is standing after walking forever wins. And it was just consistently page turning. Like you needed to know what happened to the main character. So that's a very not horror, not spooky one to read too, if you want that recommendation. And then Roadwork is just a contemporary. It is about a man who is pissed off that they're putting a road through his house and through his work. That's a straight up contemporary. Little bit of like action-y at the end, but just, to me, contemporary work. Yeah, just moving on, just giving you guys my quick recommendations. Next we have The Dead Zone. Again, this is, to me, not really a horror. This is more of a paranormal book, where a guy basically falls down, hits his head, and the things that happen from that. He has sort of the ability to see into the future a little bit because of this injury, and just the sort of story that follows from there. This one, again, I would suggest to people who don't want something super scary. Then we have Firestarter. This one, fantastic. If you like you know, little kid stories and like the like family relationships between like a daughter and her father. This one is great. The girl has the ability to pyrokinetically move stuff. This feels very similar in a lot of aspects to Kari, but this focuses more on family, and I don't know, this was great too. I really like this one too. Again, not super scary. I have to say, out of the 12 books that I read from Stephen King in order, I will let you guys know what my scariest one is, just as a heads up. And then lastly, I have The Running Man. This one was, I think, my least rated one out of all of them. I didn't care for this one as much. This is a guy set in sort of like a future world where he applies for this game show to win a lot of money, and he has to avoid being hunted and what that means. This again has, like, if you have sort of modern day Hunger Games vibes, this has old school Hunger Game vibes, I guess, like the same sort of idea of like a game show for money and like, you know, getting picked for that and that kind of thing. Are all of them horror? No, and that's what's so surprising to me. So many people, you know, you go to the bookstore and it's Stephen King in nothing but the horror section, but actually out of like the first 12 books I read, only, you know, a select few of them are actually what I would consider horror to be their main genre. A lot of them have different other elements, or a lot of them like dystopian, a little bit of contemporary, a little bit of fantasy elements, paranormal, vampire book, you know, that kind of thing. So if you're intimidated to read King, you can at me on Twitter and I can tell you, I guess, sort of like some recommendations out of the ones that I've read so far. But definitely be sure to just read the back cover and like read what the actual story is about, because yeah, all of them have creepy elements maybe, but not all of them are horror. I guess some questions you guys might have for me, I'm just going to answer them here, is what was the scariest one? And honestly, it's kind of a toss-up between The Shining is truly kind of scary. Not gonna lie, that one has some spooky scenes, and Salem's Lot. It's equal parts slow burn, small town, and then equal parts creepy vampires. So these two are probably the most scary, I guess. A couple scenes in Kari too were like kind of scary, but I also know Kari in and out, so I wasn't really taken by them. So those ones if you want a fright. And honestly, out of the rest of them, I would suggest Firestarter to most people, and The Stand really is a great dystopian book. So yeah, that is all of the Stephen King that I read in 2018. I will have up individual reviews talking more in depth about each one of these books in my Stephen King wrap-ups going forward. They're not going anywhere, that's still happening, and really my main goal for 2019 is just continuing through his work. Right now, I'm sort of at a standstill with the Gunslinger, which is his fantasy series, the Dark Tower series. It's not really my cup of tea, but I am like trying real hard to get into it. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave it there. I do want to read, you know, most of everything that he's written, and I will try my best. I do hope you guys enjoy this video. Let me know in the comments down below of any of these books. Have you read any of them? Which ones you like? Do you agree with me on my recommendations? I try my best, right? So overall, it was a good year for King. I learned so many different things. I learned that maybe I don't care for his endings as much, but that's okay. I love the journey of the entire ride of his books, and I think that I actually prefer his longer novels. It's weird because I prefer both his really, really long stuff and his short stories, so yeah, it's different. But anyway, without making this video too long, I will let you guys go, and until my next one, I will talk to all of you soon. Bye.